The Gospels tell us that Jesus was crucified at a place called Golgotha, from the Hebrew word meaning skull. Some believe it referred to a small hill shaped like a skull. Others say it was because the site was used for executions, where human remains once lay scattered. Today in Jerusalem, two main sites are traditionally linked to Golgotha. But for centuries, this mysterious hill, the place of the skull, has captured the imagination of both believers and skeptics. It is the place where Scripture says Jesus was crucified just outside the city walls. Christians worldwide have looked to this site as the very ground where redemption was won. But now, new archaeological studies on and around Golgotha are making headlines in Israel. And the discoveries are so striking that even skeptics who once dismissed Golgotha as a legend are suddenly silent. Before we continue this astonishing journey of faith, history, and archaeology, we kindly invite you to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more discoveries and biblical truths with the world. Now, let's go deeper into what has been revealed. The story begins nearly 1,700 years ago. In 312 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity. Just a few years later, his mother, Helena, traveled to Jerusalem. According to tradition, she searched for and identified many of the sacred sites from the Gospels: Bethlehem, the Mount of Olives, and most importantly, the place of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. Helena declared that Golgotha was the hill of the cross, and ordered a church built to honor it. That church became what we know today as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a site that still draws millions of pilgrims each year. Yet beneath the marble floors, beneath centuries of renovations, the earth had hidden secrets waiting to be uncovered. Archaeologists have long debated why the site was called the place of the skull. Was it shaped like a skull? Or was it known for the deaths that took place there? What is certain is that in the time of Jesus, the site stood just outside Jerusalem's walls, exactly where the Romans executed criminals as a public warning. Pontius Pilate would have chosen such a place so that everyone passing by on the main road would see and fear Rome's power. Over the centuries, this hill changed hands many times. Romans built shrines, Byzantine Christians built churches, Crusaders expanded them, and the Ottomans controlled the land. Yet through all the centuries, the ground kept its secrets. Recently, major restoration work began on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The ancient structure needed reinforcement, and archaeological teams were given access to stabilize its foundations. What started as maintenance soon turned into one of the most remarkable discoveries in biblical archaeology. Beneath centuries-old stone, archaeologists uncovered evidence that matched the words of Scripture with stunning accuracy. First, they found that Golgotha had once been a limestone quarry, active in the time of the Second Temple, but abandoned by the 1st century. Chisel marks in the rock and half-carved stones still embedded in the earth proved its history. This matched the biblical description perfectly. An abandoned quarry would have left jagged cliffs, an ideal site for Roman crucifixions, and provided space for nearby tombs carved into the rock. For generations, critics claimed the Gospel writers invented these details. But here was physical proof, a quarry at the very heart of the story. Then came the next revelation. Soil samples beneath the church revealed unusually rich earth, not barren quarry dust, but fertile soil. Tests showed remains of olive trees and grapevines, plants central to Jewish life and rich with biblical symbolism. Suddenly, the Gospel of John came alive. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid. John 19 verse 41. For centuries, scholars dismissed this verse as metaphor. But here was evidence that a garden really had existed at Golgotha. Even more discoveries followed. Archaeologists identified 1st century rock-cut tombs near the site, the kind used by wealthy Jewish families. One of these tombs, long believed by tradition to be the tomb of Christ, lies beneath the Edicule shrine inside the church. Beneath its marble casing, researchers uncovered the original limestone surface, still bearing witness to Constantine's 4th century church. The quarry, the garden, the tombs, every detail lined up with the biblical record. Professor Francesco de Sala, one of the scholars involved, described the fertile soil lifted from beneath the church's floors. "This is good gardening soil," he said, marveling at how it matched John's description of a garden near the crucifixion site. It was as though the earth itself was confirming the Gospel's words. For atheists, these discoveries pose a serious question. How could John's Gospel, written nearly 2,000 years ago, so accurately describe features of the landscape that only modern science has now confirmed? The olive trees, the grapevines, the tombs, none of this was symbolic. It was real, tangible, testable. Critics can argue against miracles. They can deny the resurrection. But they cannot dismiss the stones, the soil, and the garden that testify to the truth of Scripture. The prophet Isaiah wrote centuries earlier, "And they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth." Isaiah 53 verse 9. This prophecy was fulfilled at Golgotha. Jesus was crucified among criminals, yet laid in the tomb of a wealthy man, Joseph of Arimathea. And now, archaeology confirms the setting that made this prophecy possible: a garden, a new tomb, and the remains of a rich man's burial site. Again and again, archaeology in Israel has proven the Bible's accuracy. The Tel Dan inscription mentioning the house of David, the pool of Siloam, where Jesus healed the blind man, the walls of Jericho, each once dismissed as legend, until the stones cried out. Psalm 85 verse 11 declares, "Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven." Today, at Golgotha, the truth has once again risen from the earth. 2,000 years ago, men tried to silence Jesus by nailing him to a cross. But the stones still speak. The soil still testifies. The tombs still stand. The discoveries at Golgotha confirm that the Bible is not myth, but the record of God's unfolding plan of salvation. For some, this is a terrifying reality. For others, it is the greatest hope in the world. The question is no longer whether the Bible contains history. The question is, what will you do with that history? Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Jerusalem. If you found these discoveries as powerful as we did, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story where faith and archaeology meet. May God bless you as you continue to seek His truth. Implications to other faiths, young people, and mankind today. The discoveries at Golgotha do more than confirm Scripture. They raise questions for the entire world, across religions, generations, and humanity as a whole. For other faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all revere Jerusalem as holy. For Jews, it is the city of David and the center of God's promises. For Muslims, it is Al-Quds, a place of prayer and prophecy. For Christians, it is where salvation was won on the cross. The uncovering of evidence at Golgotha reminds all faiths that history and destiny converge here. It calls people of every belief to consider how this sacred ground shapes not only the past, but the future of the world. For young people, in a generation overwhelmed by distractions, doubts, and shifting values, the stones of Golgotha speak with clarity. They remind Gen Z and millennials that faith is not built on fairy tales. It is rooted in real places, real soil, and real history. At a time when many young hearts are searching for truth, these discoveries challenge them to look beyond screens and noise, and to wrestle with life's deepest question: who is Jesus? For mankind today, in an age of division, conflict, and uncertainty, The message of Golgotha is universal. It is not only about archaeology, it is about redemption. It proclaims that truth cannot be buried forever, that hope springs from the darkest of places, and that history itself points to a God who enters our world to bring salvation. These findings are a reminder to all humanity that the story of Jesus is not a myth. It is the central story of mankind, with eternal consequences for every soul. In the end, Golgotha is not just about what happened 2,000 years ago. It is about what it means today, for every religion, every generation, and every person who dares to face the truth rising from the stones of Jerusalem.